As my son would normally say, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry today I have massive Windows problems. I hate Windows, so there might be a little bit of noise here, but mostly I'll be showing screens anyway, so hopefully you can hear me well and you can see well, and we'll go through it. So today we're going to talk about forms, since we couldn't do it last time or even this time, but let me just pull up the screen real quick, 1 second. And we'll pull up forms here. Okay, so now it's doing that. So I think we're good. All right, let's jump in there. Okay, so forms. Let's start with forms. So to get to new forms Google created, I'm going to kind of zip through it quickly. If you don't know what Google Forms are, it's a way to easily collect data from AD and then store it in Google Sheets. And you can also take the information and then play with it. It's just like any regular spreadsheet, where you can mess with it as much as you want after the fact. But Google created a very simple way to both make attractive looking data entry screens and at the same time a very easy way to get to the data and then manipulate it, or at least get some information about who said what very easily. So that's what Google Forms is all about, and they just released a new incarnation which is extremely well done, totally different than the old forms used to be in terms of the look and feel, but essentially does the same thing just with some additional new features and options. So I quickly am going to go through that and just kind of show you what it is. So to get to Forms, you go to go to forms.google.com, which actually brings you to this URL, but that's easier to remember the other one. So forms.google.com, and then you select, you can either start with a blank form, which is what we're going to do as we walk through it, or you can start with some of the existing templates that are already pre-done, that already have some graphics and colors to go with it, and fields already populated that typically would be used for that kind of endeavor. So it just makes it much, much quicker to start something. And if these don't match your needs, then what you can do is you can click on More, and at that time you see a bunch of other options open up. You can create things for party invites, course evaluation for education, worksheets, assessments. You can do T-shirt sign up. I mean, all kinds of different things that kind of they put together different templates that might be a good starting point for you, and you can see they look different, and so you could definitely have a lot of choices to start with, so you don't have to start from scratch if you don't want to. If you did want to start from scratch, then you simply click on blank right here, and it gives you the screen that shows you basically a really, well, it's a starting point for a form, let's put it this way. There's no other way to describe it. So what you do is you immediately give it some name. Instead of Antara, we'll call it test example form, for example. And you can give it some description if you want, and then you can actually start going directly with, they put one question here, so you can change it to be whatever you want. Let's say we want to ask people for their first name. So you put that in there. And then, of course, on the right side here, it says what kind of field is it. So you can have little text fields, longer text fields, multiple choice answers, checkboxes, pull-down menus. Essentially, it's the same thing we had before, just named a little different. They used to call it list, now they call it drop-down. You can do scales, you can have multiple choice grids. So just play with all of these. These are all competent and capable. And you can also have date and time fields. So any of these are capable. Right now, we're going to just use the short answer. And in terms of the any other information, the only thing that really is important is this required field here, which you can indicate that it's a required field. And then when people enter the information, they have to specify something in here. If you don't care if they enter information or not, you can make it optional by simply checking it off. Notice that when I click on these things, it's using, as you can see from the colors and layout, it's a Google Material Design implementation. So everything is working where you click on something, as you can see, a line is drawn, the text is highlighted automatically, so I can just start typing something else if I wanted to. The colors are Material Design colors. Everything is done in Material Design layout, which is really, really nice. Also, you can see on the side here, you have a little flyout menu, and this flyout menu allows you to add additional questions by clicking on this little plus sign, and then it adds additional fields or questions. You can also add a title or and description, so you can set up like a little segregator or separator between the fields. For example, I can put here and I can say something like section 2, for example, and I'll show you what it looks like. And you can put optional description here if you wanted to, but in our case, we're not going to do it. You can also insert an image. So if I click on this little image thing, it'll allow me to drag or select from my photos, my albums, select the picture. So all you have to do is just double click to select it and click select, and it drops an image in here. So for example, it's my logo, so I can say productive computer systems, and I have my logo, and I can then use this little, as you can see, this little move icon at the top of each field allows me to simply drag things up and down, so I can easily put the information in the order I want. So if I put in question 1 is first name, question 2 is last name, and we'll make it also a short answer here, then I can easily rearrange them. If I wanted to enter last name first, I just drag it like this, and so it makes it very easy and convenient. And of course, here's my logo, and that's how you go through and add additional elements to the form by either clicking to add additional fields here, adding sections here, adding images, or even you can even add a video. So when you click on video, you can look for example, if I look for my son stuff, something comes up here, and I can just easily add a video by clicking on it, selecting it, and then sticking it right there. You can actually play it, and then you can rearrange it the same way up and down, however you feel appropriate. And you can give it a title, you can center it, you can also click on it to change the size of it. You can make it bigger or smaller, like that. And that's essentially, so that's how you can jump very quickly. I just wanted to show you in real time kind of how quickly you can go around and make these changes, rearrange things, add fields, things like that, and you essentially have your form. Now, if you don't like the way it looks by default, what you can do is you can change the colors by clicking on this little color palette up at the top, and then when you click on this, it gives you a choice of all these other colors. So if I want it to be, for example, red, I click on this, and now notice it changes the background below as well, and at the top, different heading. If I wanted to make it brown, it looks like this. So very, very simple, very easy. Immediately you see the results. You can also click on this little image icon at the bottom right corner, and then it will ask you what image do you want to use for the top part. It's not going to be the bottom. The bottom is going to be one of the colors that complements well the top stuff. So if we selected, for example, these eggs as example, and of course you can see you can also upload your own photos, your own albums as well. We select that. Now we have these eggs covering up the top, and the rest is in this color here. You cannot control this color, by the way. So anyway, so that's kind of how you set things up to start with. I mean, that's how easy it is. And what they've done is, even though they have all the options in place, they've kind of separated them into separate areas on the screen, which makes it easier to kind of get to it because you don't have a lot of stuff bunched up like you used to have, and at the same time, it makes sense in terms of what they are. So things dealing with the actual questions or fields are all here. What you can add, what you can insert. The bottom part here, by the way, is the add section. It's what used to be called add page break. So if you wanted to have page breaks and then have navigation one page at a time, that's where you would add that. So all of that is this little flyout bar. As you can see, if I scroll, it automatically scrolls with me, so I can easily get to it no matter how much I scroll, how little I scroll. And then I have some additional icons here at the top here, which we'll cover shortly. And you can go back to forms by clicking on the back button. Typical material design thing, works the same way on both desktops and the mobile devices. And the whole interface and everything is set up to work really well. And it's completely responsive design, so it means it works perfectly well when you get it done on either desktops or notebooks, I'm sorry, netbooks or tablets or phones, so any of those devices, and as well as cross-platform, works equally well on both Macs and PCs. And so in my case, I'll just rename it to go test example form. This is good. That's the actual file name of the form, and this is the heading. I could change this to be, whatever I want it to be. I can change it to just say test example, for example. Oops, didn't need to do that. Jump out here. Like that, and the actual name of the form will be the same. And of course, all the changes are automatically saved, so you don't have to worry about saving anything. It does it for you. So if we wanted to look and see what this form will look like for people who fill it out, you click on the little eye here up at the top called Preview. Click on that, and it opens up, and now this is what the actual form looks like for people to fill it out. So I can click here, and I can type in my name here, like that, and as you can see, it's got a little section 2 thing, which has nothing more than the video, and if I wanted to play the video, and there's the video, and so we're not going to watch Ben talk about his stuff, and then when I'm done with the form, filled it out, then I click on Submit, and that's it. It says your response has been recorded, and submit another response. And of course, you can customize that to say whatever you want it to say. So if I click another response, it just jumps back. Same thing here. So that's how you fill a form out. Very simple, very straightforward. Anybody can do it without much effort. And if we go back to the form itself, in terms of editing it, let's look at some of these other icons here. So at the top, you have settings, typical cog, and when you click on the settings, these are the settings dealing with the form in general. Now it's settings for the entire form. And so here you can check the box here that says can submit only one response, requires login. Which means what? Which means that if somebody fills out a form and this checkbox is checked, they would need to log in so Google knows who they are, and then it won't let them put in any more than a single response. So it could be very handy for organizations, for schools, where logins are required, and then you need to know who filled out what. So it's and to make sure that nobody, for example, let's say it's a voting situation where people are voting for some kind of school election or board election. You don't want people to vote more than one time. So that's where you would check this off. They have to log in. It will force them to log in. They put in their responses, and that's it. It won't let them. If they try it again, it won't let them. The typical situations are where you're doing forms. You want people to put in more than one response. Of course, you would then uncheck it, and then they can put in more than one response. Then the next thing, it says confirmation page, says message for responders. And as you notice, when I actually submitted, it said your response has been recorded. That's something I can change to anything I want. Thank you for filling out the form. We'll be in touch shortly. Board of directors, or whatever you want to say. In other words, you can put as many lines as you want, as much of that message as you want, so that final confirmation page, which what comes up after the users click submit, that's what's going to come up. Okay, then down below it says show responders a link to, and you can have that final confirmation page have a link that says submit another response, which is typically the default. Then you can also say click on this edit their response and check summary responses. So if you wanted them to be able to see summary responses, you check this. If you wanted them to be able to edit their current response, you would check this. Otherwise, they cannot edit. They can just add new ones. And you can check this to submit another response. So typically, that's what you would check, because you want them to be able to, like if you're doing data entry and you want multiple responses, then you would give them an option to easily go back and add another response. As far as presentation options for the form go, you can show the progress bar, which means if you have multiple pages or multiple sections, as they call them now, then you'd be able to see the user, when they enter the information, will be to see how far along they are. Like, for example, if you have a 5-page form, then users will see, 20% for the first one, and it shows 40%, and so on. So a user knows exactly how far along they are in the data entry process, which makes it a little bit easier. And then if you're using it for educational purposes, then, let's say you're doing a quiz, then it makes it easier. Sometimes you want to shuffle the questions, so students can't cheat, and that's where you use the shuffle question order. Other than that, it's not really useful. And so we'll click on that, and that's pretty much all the settings you can do here. Then there is also a little menu on the far right corner here, which allows you to deal with the form in terms of being able to make a copy of the form. You can move it to a different folder or to trash. You can get a pre-filled link, which that's an option that allows you to actually enter some information into the form itself, then save it with a different URL, and then people who are using the that particular URL will automatically have this information pre-populated for them. Example of that would be, for example, let's say you're asking people to put in name and address, and address includes state. And let's say that most of your people who enter the information live in your state, so you want to have the field for a state, but at the same time you want it to automatically be pre-filled, like in my case, Washington State. So you would simply put that as a pre-filled link, and of course then you can make it short so it's easy for people to consume it. And that way, whenever they get into the form, Washington would automatically be pre-selected on every single entry, so they don't have to select it because it's always going to be the same thing pretty much. You're giving them an option to have it different, but most of the time it'll be the same, so it makes it easier for data entry. So that's where pre-filled links come in, being pretty handy. I also set up a form for my son's school when he's absent, or when students are absent, basically. And so instead of putting his name every time to indicate that that he's not going to be in school, which basically a form that has name, dates of absence, and a little comment field, I just did a pre-filled form with his name, and that way I use that special URL myself, so I don't have to put in his name every time I need to send one of these forms. So it's got multiple kind of uses like that, but you get an idea. And of course, you can print the form. You can add collaborators, so you can have other people working on the form with you, just like any other Google Doc or Google spreadsheet. You can also now apply AppScript, which is Google's scripting language, to enhance capabilities of forms. And at this point, in the past, you always had to do it through this sheet where the information is stored. Now they made it so you can actually do it through this directly into the form, but I haven't played with it at all yet, so I'm not sure exactly how you go about it, because you still have the old capability, and I'll show you an example of using old capabilities using script editor through the sheets, but I'm not sure how it works with the forms just yet, so I can't really comment on it yet. But they clearly added the capability to do it directly from the form itself without resorting to sheets. So we'll have to do another HOA on that topic once I figure out how it works. And also they added the ability to have add-ons, which gives you a whole plethora of all kinds of additional capabilities that third-party manufacturers put together. So if you look for add-ons, if you click on the add-ons thing, it'll then open up Marketplace and show you all kinds of different add-ons you can add to the form, and you can just kind of go through it and see which ones may be useful, which ones may not be. Some of them are very useful. And then you have a little help center. You can report a problem, take a tour. Tour is not that great, very basic stuff. I mean, we're doing more right now than what they're doing on the tour. So essentially, that's all the options you have. You have a little flyout for the form itself, capabilities. You have these options dealing with the form in general. And then you have the big send button now, which allows you to identify and actually distribute the form to different people using different approaches. And so when you click on the send button, you see the first option is a little envelope, which is email, and you're able to put in one or more email addresses in the to field here, so specify as many as you want. And then you can put in a subject and a message, and then you can even check this checkbox, which will put the form itself within the email, so people can fill out the form directly from within email without linking to an external page or external tab. So in some cases it makes sense to do it right there and there, and people can just fill it out without worrying about going to a browser and doing anything else. Very handy. So that's one way you can send the form to people to fill out. Another way how you can do it is you can do it through social media by using one of these links on the top right here. You got Google+, Facebook, and you have Twitter. And so what will happen is it will actually create a post with the form embedded inside the post, and then you're able to send it to whatever circles or whatever followers you have. And then once you do that, then these people will get it, and then they are able to fill out the form, and go from there. So it makes it much more open-ended now than it used to be, where you have these additional flexible capabilities of sending the form to people to fill out via email. You can also do it through social media using the, some of the most popular ones, which is, Facebook, Google Plus, and Twitter. In addition to that, you have another ability, and that is right here using this little link. So it gives you this really long and hard to read link, but you can click on the shorten URL checkbox here, and it makes it nice and short. And then you can use that in your email or however you want to distribute this link, which also gives people ability to do it using this link. So whether you send it through email or you send it email using this link, either way is going to work equally great. So that's another way to do it. And then another thing you can do, you can also, and of course you can also post this link in forums and blogs and all over the place like that. That's what essentially this link is for. Another thing you can do is you can get the embed code, what they call it, which is this option on the far right, right side of the send via line. And what this gives you, it gives you a HTML code that you need to stick it into, let's say, a blog or a any kind of HTML page, and it'll actually embed the form for people to fill it out directly into that particular page or that particular blog. So also very convenient, very useful. You just indicate the width and height of this particular box that's going to house the form, and that's all you do. You just simply click on copy, and then you drop it into your code, into your WordPress page, or into your Blogger page, or into your just HTML page on your website, however you want to do it, and then you're going to have this nice looking form directly inside to be filled out by people who come to that page. So if you want to set up a page for people to contact you, so this would be a way to set up something where they can just fill it out and they submit it and information goes to you. That becomes your contact page. You can set it up. You can even set it up easily, a form to be kind of like the landing or squeeze page where you're asking people for their name and email, and when they click submit, then you're gonna at that point email them something or something like that. So you can set it up for that purpose. There's all kinds of different purposes how this can be done. Very useful and very easy to distribute. So that's how you distribute the forms to people. And let's see what else we haven't covered here. So let's take a few minutes. I think I covered pretty much everything here. The only thing I didn't mention, if you go back to specific fields, if you're editing specific fields, what you can do here is let's say we enter address, and we'll make that to be a short answer also. One of the things that I mentioned here on the bottom, you can easily delete existing fields by clicking on the trash can. You can also duplicate the field. So let's say you wanted to have two address lines. So right now I have a line called address. I can click on this particular field here, icon, and now I'm going to change this to be address 2, and so essentially it's done. So everything else I have on address, that's exactly what I want address to. And of course now I want to pull it down to be lower. I don't need it here, I need it down below under the names, and same thing with address here. Just drop it down here to here, and so now we have it set up and looks right. And if you want to make address 1 required, you click on this, and perfect. So now if we click on the I preview to see the form, we can actually see what it looks like. We got last name, first name, address. You can see it's got a little asterisk here, and at the top it says that asterisk means required. So they do all that for you, and great. So now if I want to fill it out, actually, and if I put something, let's say I skip everything, and I try to do submit, what's going to happen is going to jump here to the address field and say, this is a required question, so I have to fill it out. And so it's very, very useful to be able to easily identify which fields are required, which are not. You can even do some basic data validation. For example, let's say we wanted to add an address field. So we would go back and click on this little pencil at the top right corner. It says edit this form. And when we get there, we're going to add additional field called I'll just add another field here. We'll duplicate this. We'll call it email. Okay, and then what I wanted to do here is I'm going to say down below it's got this thing called data validation. And so I select data validation, and I'm going to say that this is going to be a text field, and I want that field to be an email address. And then over here, they'll let you specify the error message if this is not entered correctly. So I will say something like, please enter a valid email address. Okay? And that's it. So now if we fill out the form by jumping back to the preview again, as you can see, if I put in something like, and then just hit enter, you can see that it's telling me that please enter a valid email address. So not going to fly. If I want to leave it completely empty, that's going to be just fine, but because it's not required. But if I actually put something in there, it's going to tell me it's invalid. So if I select an email address that's valid, it lets me put it in there. Okay, so very, very slick, very convenient. Okay, so that's the basic walkthrough through new Google Forms. I pretty much told you about all the features, all the capabilities. I know we kind of went fast, but if you kind of watch it and go through it yourself, you'll see it's really simple how they set it up. It's very intuitive in many ways. You just kind of need to kind of adjust to the menus and these different flyout things, but it is pretty cool how they set it up. And so that takes us to this new tool I put together for everybody to use that I'm going to make available soon. This is kind of in beta release. And let me just show you what it does basically. So if I go to preview here, as you can see, I have my custom design for it. And it's got these certain fields that you can fill out. And what it is, it's a way to easily find information in either Gmail or Inbox, and then filter it according to whatever your preferences are. And then based on that, you can do different things in terms of just finding information or actually doing something with it. So the way it works is this. You put in some kind of title. So I'm going to say I'm going to look for Takeout Online in January 2016. So I'm going to look for that. Just some kind of title will mean something to you. And then down here, I'm going to say, I'm going to use the words Takeout Online. And one of the things that you can also specify here is you can specify who the emails came from, who they went to. All of these are optional. So pretty much almost every field here you have is optional. Okay? So I'm going to be looking for these two words, Takeout Online. I'm not going to put any subjects, any from, to, nothing. The only thing I want to specify is the dates. So I'm going to put in here the starting date would be January 2016, and the ending date is going to be January 31st, 2016. Okay, so we got these 2 dates in place. So as you can see, it's very nice that instead of typing all these commands and everything you normally do that's very cryptic for advanced, what they call advanced Gmail search capabilities, this way makes it really, really simple. And so other than that, the only thing I want to say is I want to look in the inbox, so you can specify location where it is, and that's basically it. I don't want to specify anything else. So I click submit, and now it says that list your locations. List of your location is at this address. So I click on it, and that takes me to a spreadsheet, as you can see, a Google Sheet, and it doesn't show me all the answers, even though they're all there. So it's set up specifically so all you have is just these couple of links here, and it says execute via Gmail or via inbox. So if I click on this name I put in, Takeout in 2016, notice that it opens a new tab. It pulls up Gmail, and now, as you can see, I have these things where it says Takeout Online, which is what I was searching for, and this is the command that actually generated for me, so I don't have to do anything. And then notice that the date says January 30th, and if I scroll through it and just look down all the way, it's going to go all the way to January. I didn't have anything on January 1st, so that's why it starts with 2nd. So as you can see, it just pulled out just the emails I was looking for with specific words for a specific date range, which makes it very handy for a lot of different things. Let's say that I wanted to see all the emails that I have in 2015, for example, right? I would do the same, essentially the same thing. I would go to the form itself and just jump in there, and I would say, the title of this would be, let's say we're going to look for anything that came from let's say manager at walnutfund.com, and it came from January of 2016 going forward. Doesn't matter when it ends, and I don't have anything else I want to specify. So let's just see how that works. So I click on submit. It says you got to give it a title. So we're going to select emails from Walnut Fund. Okay, and now I click submit. So there's an example of it. And then we go back to the actual spreadsheet. Now notice it's got my old entry in there, but it also has the new one right there. And notice I also have, there's two columns, one for Gmail, one for inbox. So this time I'm going to click on the one from inbox and see what it does. When you click on it, you will see what it will do. It will actually open up the inbox, which is a little different syntax, and there's all the emails from this particular email address, starting from beginning in January and all the way to, I guess the first one was January 12th, looks like, all the way to up to now, basically. So, and I can pull it up anytime. I don't have to fill the form out. All I have to do is click on one of these links. So essentially, it's a tool that allows you to create a number of these different entries using, simple form entry, and then you can do some really cool things. Like, let me show you another example. Let's say that I go to, let's say I go to the form and I want to do something like, let's say something dealing with my 10 dishes. So I'm going to say my 10 dishes emails. And so I can put in a label here called my 10 dishes. And now I have a label like that. And I don't care about dates. I just want anything that has to do with it that's in inbox. And click submit. 10 dishes. And we just do this. So actually, I'm going to erase the search. I'm going to give it a name, and I'm just going to give it a label, and that's it. That's all I really want. That's going to be in the inbox. And click submit. And now, as you can see, I have my 10 dishes. And if I click on it, on the link I'm in, you just hover over the link basically, and it shows you the actual URL. You click on that. It's going to go ahead, pull up my Gmail now, and there is, label my 10 dishes, all the emails dealing with my 10 dishes that are in the inbox. So you can see you can have all kinds of criteria that you can specify in this thing, and you can specify as much as you want. In the new forms, you can look at the responses. That's something I didn't show you in the last part. Is you click on this responses area in the forms, and it shows you there's 3 responses, and the summary will show you different things in terms of summary for who responded how. And if you click on individual, you can actually step through each response and see what the responses were. In this particular case, it doesn't make any sense because I'm not using it for the purpose of looking at the entries. I'm just building the string, this advanced search string, and putting it in a spreadsheet. But if you're doing regular data entry type forms, then it's perfect to be able to do that and see it. And also you can see there is an option here called accepting responses. If I simply turn it off, then it turns red, and it's not going to be, nobody will be able to put in any more information, which is also kind of handy. And you can indicate the message, what the message is supposed to say to people if they try to fill it out. And also I can go back to the spreadsheet here using this approach and see the responses in there. Okay? And so if we go back to the form here and see what you actually can put in, you can specify the actual criteria, which is word or phrase to look for. You can specify who the email came from, who the email was addressed to. You can specify the subject that was in the email if you want. And remember, you can specify any of those together or separately. It doesn't matter how you do it. You can specify a particular label. You can specify a date range, beginning, ending date. If you have email addresses in CC or BCC, you can find emails based on that. If something was in chat, you can indicate whatever the phrase is you're looking for in chat. If you have notifications in your emails from chat, it will show up. You can also specify the file name of the attachment, and it will give you all the emails that have that particular attachment. And you can even specify file size, so it will show you all the emails that are bigger than the size you indicate. You specify in megabytes, so you put in like number 5, means show me all the emails that have attachments with at least 5 megabytes in size. So that's pretty cool. And you can even exclude things. So you can put in a certain word that indicates do the search criteria, but exclude what matches here on the exclude line. So very capable here. In terms of the categories, location, status, as I call them, you can indicate, for example, if you're looking for something in promotions and you want to delete a bunch of emails. So let's say we're going to say, promos to delete. And you basically are not looking for anything specific. You're just saying, show me whatever you have in promotions. Okay? You click submit, and what you get is this particular response back, which shows you all these different things that are in promos, and you can see category promotions. And at that point, all I have to do is click on select all, and it shows me there's a lot more than just 50 that's on the screen, so I can say select all here, and now it says 512 selected, and all I have to do is click on delete, and they're all gone. I mean, this is how simple it is to use this thing in conjunction with Gmail inbox. So I'm going to be releasing this to the public pretty soon. I just, it's kind of in beta testing right now, but you can use it for your own purposes. Another thing that I'm putting in that wasn't there in my previous version of this thing was the ability to have reminders and different capabilities that the inbox only gives you. So even though this thing works with both Gmail and inbox, I put some additional things that only work with inbox. And so it's very easy to look at, one of the things, look, for example, in terms of reminders, you can easily add a reminder in inbox, but then when you snooze it or you indicate that's done, it mixes them. When you click on reminders, it mixes them all together. And so, there's a way to easily indicate, say reminders in that are just in inbox, and then it'll only show you those. So I'll do another HOA on that topic, and I'll show you how to use that. But I just wanted to give you a glimpse of to what this thing can do in terms of selecting emails and showing you emails you want using the new Google Forms. That's it for now. So my apologies for the technical difficulties upstairs. It's like I said, I hate Windows. And with that, I think we're pretty much done. So let me stop the screen sharing here. And I thank you for watching this, and until next time, thank you.